Yes.
Show Annie on camera for the film to say, today's turf presentations for consideration at 60 Cedar.
Yeah, just into, do you want to say it into
or
the
into your mic, yeah.
Do you want to say it because you're thinking of what should be said?
Oh, okay.
Do you want to read the, or do an intro?
Yeah.
Are we all set on
All set.
your end? Okay, so we just, okay.
And you are
Shaw Sports Turf,
Turf,
Joe
just
Kasevich.
that? Okay.
Yep.
Oh. Joe
Kasevich.
Kasich.
Kasevich.
Is he ready?
All set? All right. Well, good morning.
So today we're being recorded for a series of turf presentations for consideration at 60 Cedar Street New Recreation Fields. Today we are starting with Shaw Sports Turf, and this is Joe Kasevich.
Okay. Thank you and good morning. Can we just do intros, please? I know Joe, but
Yep. Annie Rossioli, Recreation Director.
hi, Annie.
Robin Stravis, Facilities Coordinator.
Hi, Robin.
No, didn't have a mic.
Joe, okay.
Joe Cohen, landscape architect.
Okay. Thank you. Again, my name is Joe Kasevich. I'm the New England Territory Manager for Shaw Sports Turf. This is my 16th year with the company. I've literally been involved with hundreds of installations throughout New England, all 6 New England states, sport-specific fields, multi-sport fields, some involving very easy sites to deal with, and some very, very challenging sites. With 16 years in the company, I know who to call in the event I need to get an answer. Just to give you an idea, Boston Parks and Recreation, called us a couple of weeks ago regarding a park that they intend to put literally next to the Quincy shipyard, literally on the water. And they told us that it's going to flood at least 3 times a year based on what they see. What would our recommendation be for the turf? What about the drainage? That's a tough one. And consulting with other people in our company, we came up with a solution that they're very, very happy with. As I said, I've been with the company for 16 years, but I feel as though I've been with the synthetic turf industry literally from the start. I played football at Springfield College. In 1971, they installed what was then the 3rd synthetic turf field to be installed in the United States. Astrodome being the 1st, Moses Brown School in Providence being 2nd, Springfield College being 3rd. I bring that to your attention because it was just brutal. It was the infancy of the synthetic turf industry. So it was a carpet with no infill on a very, very thin rubber pad on concrete, literally on concrete. And it was a real challenge to play. They had no idea what footwear to put us in. And I bring that to your attention because, turf systems have improved dramatically since 1971. And I'm very, very proud and pleased to work for a company like Shaw Sports Turf that takes the safety of the athlete, number one. If you do a word association in the synthetic turf industry and you say Shaw Sports Turf, without question, our research and development lab would come to mind with most people. It's far and away the largest and the most comprehensive R&D lab in the industry. As you'll see in this video that I'm going to show you. But in today's presentation, I hope to address 4 things. I hope you come away with an appreciation or understanding of four things. First one, per Joe's request, is what type of turf, what type of product do we suggest for this installation? Number 2, Shaw Sports Turf, we look at things from a systemic viewpoint, the total system. The turf, the infill, and whether you go pad, no pad, they all work together. The analogy that we give is, the automobile that you drive. The engine, the brakes, catalytic converter, they all combine to give you the safest, most economical ride possible. That's the way we look at our synthetic turf systems. Number three, again, Joe asked us, talk about pad, no pad. What are the advantages of a pad versus a system with no pad? And talk about the pad that we just released 3 weeks ago, which is literally a game changer in the synthetic turf industry. And then last but not least, the Massachusetts Cooperative Purchasing Agreement that would allow you to purchase the materials directly. Okay, in other words, if you like any one of the 3 systems today, a company, you can buy the turf, the infill, the pad, anything of a material nature directly, but you still have to bid out the site work and the installation of the turf per mass bid laws, and that's exactly what Tintasqua did. We made presentations. They chose Shaw Sports Turf with our Legion product, which you'll see in a minute, with our Geofill organic product, infill product for 2 fields, and they're extremely happy. Deb Boyd, their assistant superintendent for business and finance, is a huge supporter of that process. Mike Lucas, the principal, and Kara Ellis, the athletic director, are huge supporters of the system. And we have 8 other Geofill systems in New England. So what I like to start out with, I like presentations to be very interactive. I find that if you do a typical PowerPoint, people just sit there and watch. I'm here to answer your questions. You can, the presentation is on the flash drive for you to look at, and with additional information. This video that you're about to see, like I said, is 4.5 minutes long. Our director of R&D, Dr. Felipe Aldahar, got his doctorate at Auburn University, so he has close ties to Auburn University. No surprise, big Division I school. They have incredible natural grass surfaces. So I'm sure you've heard this or read this many times. People who will say, I'll take a great natural grass field any day of the week compared to a synthetic turf field. So Dr. Aldahar took that mindset and he set out to do 3 years of R&D research with the idea of, let's identify the 7, 8, or 9 most important safety and performance characteristics in very, very high-end natural grass fields. Major League Soccer, Major League Baseball, NFL stadium fields, and practice fields. And once we identify those, incorporate those into our synthetic turf products. The first fruit of that labor, as you'll see, is our B1K baseball product. And I bring that to your attention, not because, obviously this is not a turf baseball field, but it's been incredibly well received. You'll see how it was tested. You're going to see the athletes going back and forth with sensory devices on their knees and ankles and recording all this data. And we're very proud to say that B1K has been installed at the Arizona Diamondbacks Major League Stadium, Texas Rangers Major League Stadium, Miami Marlins Major League Stadium, Blue Jays Minor League Stadium, and Washington Nationals single A facility. So you can see the American League Championship Series and the World Series are being played at B1K Stadium in Texas. Obviously, that came from a lot of positive feedback, from the players. So I'd like to start off with this video. Hopefully it comes on. Uh-oh. Let's see. I'm not getting any sound. Oh, boy.
We can help you connect in 1 second. You're early. You're early, you said Friday. I don't have the sign up yet. Oh, is that one?
Not my area, but expertise.
If not, I can just narrate.
Just not.
You both for a second.
Yes, sound on the video laptop. Other than-
To see them do development study, marketing, actually advertising for
Are you getting sound here?
No, I can't.
The earphones there. Where is that?
It's over here.
Headphone there?
Yeah.
Might have to turn on the speaker. Mic works. You might have to bring over the speaker.
Can you play it out loud from your laptop and
From
from the
the
mic
laptop,
next to
yep.
it?
Yep, I'll just take this out. If I want to play from the laptop?
If you
Well,
do
we
that,
need
then
to
you-
connect to the
video.
presentation.
Can you?
Well, it's not on the screen.
It's not projecting to the screen whatsoever.
Projecting, actually.
Oh. Huh. Yeah, that's right, it's not projecting. So I wonder if I have to take this out for it to play?
Is that just a connection
No,
issue?
can you minimize that and check your display settings? If you, right there on the desktop,
Anyway,
and on the desktop though,
right here?
right click. And, no, go a little lower.
Thank you.
It's on the internet,
It's a Chromebook, I don't know if the.
yeah, that's probably,
Yeah. I don't know where the display settings are, they're not my Chromebook, and it's not.
maybe I should take this out.
If you do take that out, you can try it.
Yeah.
See if you can hear it, see it and hear it. You can see it, but you still can't hear it.
Well, click play on that, see if the sound is in your laptop. Can you pause the recording?
So the sound is
Pause
up,
the
the
recording.
sound is on. Hmm.
Hi, any chance you
That's too
could
bad.
try to help us with the connection issue? Thank you.
If you hit play.
So the fruits of the labor of Dr. Aldahar, who you'll see in a minute, is our B1K baseball product. Come on.
Look at the screen when you move your mouse and just go a little slower. There you go.
The Texas Rangers, again, the American League Championship Series and the World Series are being played on this field. Whoops. And so you can see this is the, their head medical person, and he was just blown away by all the research. Now, the Arizona Diamondbacks were the first ones to install. Their stadium was already built, so they just transformed, into B1K. This is a brand-new stadium. This is Dr. Aldahar, our Director of R&D, who I said got his doctorate at Auburn. This is our test facility. You can just tell there's all different types of turf that we're measuring, and he's talking about what I said before, that the whole purpose of his research was to test very, very high-end natural grass fields throughout the country, and then determine the 7 or 8 most important safety and performance characteristics and adapt them into our turf. So this is the testing that we do. You can see the sensory receptors on the athlete's knees and ankles, and that's going into a giant database where we collect all this data. And he's talking about how safe, the field is. That's our crumb rubber, organic, obviously not, it's not blended in yet, but I also have a sample of that for you. And there it is installed at the Texas Rangers' new stadium, Globe Life Field. Again, with baseball, the ball roll and the ball bounce is absolutely critical. You know, those infielders, the reason why it's been so well accepted by major league players is we succeeded, all this research. She's the director of kinesiology at Auburn. We succeeded in getting the ball bounce perfect. Perfect. So it bounces differently in the infield compared to a routine single in the outfield. And so we replicated that. So that's what Wendy is saying right now. I get that. I've seen this many, many times. So there was the ball bounce right there. You see how he didn't have to move? He could anticipate where it was going to bounce.
Joe, is this what we used at Victory in Watertown?
No. That was pure power blade, our monofilament. So that's basically the end. You know, I'm just going to switch to some other. How come I can't grab the? Is this getting in the way? Trying to X out of it.
Oh, it's the light bulb up there. That's
Oh.
what's blocking you.
Maybe to move this. No?
Try escape. So do you have escape on
You
your
got
keyboard?
escape.
Just keep on doing it.
Just, you know, do the rest of it this way. You can always watch the presentation. So one of the things that Joe asked us to recommend is the type of turf. So in the synthetic turf industry, there's basically two types of fiber, slip film and monofilament. Slip film has been around for many, many years. The reason it's called slip film is when it comes out of the machine, it looks like a piece of green tape, and then it's slit along its long axis. If you look up here, you see how it opens up? See the space? And the reason for that is to allow the infill to migrate, you know, into the blades of fiber. So if you were doing a collision sport field, football, rugby, boys lacrosse, where keeping the infill in place is critical, you would go with slip film. So one example that comes to mind is, at Wesleyan University, we have two fields. The field inside their track is used for football practice and men's lacrosse practice and games. Clearly, slit film was the way to go. The downside of slit film is even if you groom it at the recommended rate, it starts to lay over, okay? So instead of staying upright, it starts to lay over. Soccer players do not like that because when the fiber lays over, the ball just takes off, and they feel that they don't have control over the ball. So for that reason, approximately 12 years ago, monofilament was introduced to the marketplace. Mono means one. So to make a tuft of monofilament, we take 6 individual, you see the individual fibers, we tie them together, 6 of them, and then tufted into the backing, okay? Does give you a superior ball roll for the game of soccer. It's not a coincidence that the soccer complexes that we have in New England are all, monofilament. So FC Stars complex, there's 7 fields, I believe, in Lunenburg, Mass. It's monofilament. Mansfield Soccer Complex, monofilament. The 2015 Women's World Cup in Edmonton, Canada, they were all in our fields, the stadium field and the practice fields, all monofilament. However, a mere 6 years ago, when you were talking about a multi-sport field, where you have football, soccer, field hockey, lacrosse, I can't tell you how many presentations I've made where, you go through the pros and cons of monofilament versus slit film, and you can see the athletic director, you say, oh my heavens, someone's going to leave here not a happy camper. If I go with the slit film, my football coach, my boys lacrosse coach, they're thrilled. Not so much my soccer coach. If I go with the monofilament, my soccer coach is thrilled. One thing I forgot to mention is monofilament doesn't hold the infill in place quite as good. So we said, why are we putting our customers in that unenviable position of having to choose between one or the other? The answer was pretty obvious. Put the 2 fibers in the same product. So you get the best of both worlds. The slit film is going to hold the infill in place for the collision sports. The monofilament is going to give superior ball roll for the game of soccer. Everybody's happy. However, there's 2 ways to do and that's our Legion product, which I'm going to get into in a minute, which is by far our most popular product. So I'll try to do this. I'm going to turn it this way. So there's 2 types, two ways to tuft a multi-sport field. AB thread up, and single needle. So in the turf industry, the tufting technique is very similar to the way you sew a garment. The thread goes through the proverbial eye of the needle, and this part of the sleeve would be sewn to the body of the shirt. And it's the same in the synthetic turf industry. The fiber goes through the eye of the needle, and then it's tufted into the backing. So this is the fiber. So we think, so when you do AB thread up, which is this one, you alternate slit film mono, slit film mono. So this needle would only have slit film, this one would only have monofilament. And you can see you alternate. And we didn't want to do it that way because we feel you get a streaky look or a cornrow effect. What we do is single needle. Both the slit film and the monofilament pass through the eye of the needle, and they're tufted into the backing. And you can see, you get a much nicer blend. You don't get that cornrow effect, and our customers love it. Our Legion product is so popular that we actually have, 3 versions of it. Legion HP, Legion Pro, and Legion NXT. In all 3 versions, the slit film is exactly the same. It's our XP Plus product. What differentiates the 3 is the monofilament, the thickness and durability of the monofilament. So HP is kind of our standard, Pro is our bolt monofilament, and Legion NXT is our Thunderbolt monofilament, which is thicker and more durable. And you say, well, give me an example. Well, what do you mean by more durable? So FIFA, the governing body of worldwide soccer, actually has a certification process. And there's 16 material tests that you have to pass and 26 performance characteristics that you have to pass. And you actually get a certification. So one of the tests, not surprisingly, is fiber durability. And the way you measure it, and again, this is all on your flash drive, there's a machine called a Lisport machine. And if you can imagine a drum with stubs on it, the stubs simulate soccer cleats, okay? And then you put, the fiber and the infill are on a table, and that drum goes back and forth, back and forth. To be FIFA certified, that drum has to go over the system 20,000 cycles, 20,000 times, with absolutely the fiber can't break, it can't split, it can't lay over. 20,000, you measure it on a scale of 1 to 5, 1 being pristine, 5 meaning it completely fell apart. All 3 of the Legion members of the Legion family made it to 50,000 cycles. That's 2.5 times greater than the FIDA certification. And the Legion NXT, the premier product, made it to 80,000 cycles. So okay, so talk to me. What does cycles mean? And every day, what does that equate to? Is that years? It's 8 years, 40 hours of play per week. Absolutely no breakdown at all. But again, so that's the fiber. That's the product that we would recommend. Our Legion family. As I said, we have 84 Legion facilities, whether it's HP Pro or NXT, in New England. And then moving to the next subject, which is pad, no pad. So why a pad? What are the benefits of a shot pad? So there's been a lot of publicity about concussions in the game of football, boys lacrosse, and so pads have been increasingly, becoming increasingly popular. You do get a more consistent performance over 8 years compared to if you installed it over stone. It is a bit expensive, obviously pad, no pad, but you do get a little bit of the cost differential back because when you install over no pad, stone, the typical pile height is 2.25 inches, okay, and there's going to be 1 3/4 inches of infill. When you install over a pad, you can reduce that to 2 inches, which would be 1.5 inches of infill. So there, yes.
Does the pad change the infiltration rate of the system?
Yes. So great question. So getting back to what I said about it's a system. So again, one of the slides that I hope to show you, if we can get it up and running, is the. As a matter of fact, I'm going to try to get that right now because it's such a key part of the presentation. Having real trouble here. Okay. Okay, all right, we're getting there. So, going back to Dr. Aldahar's, research. Remember I said that, his goal was to set out and determine, what is a great playing surface? How do you mimic it or even surpass it? Okay. Looks like it's having some issues queuing up here.
While you're doing that, who does your install?
Great question. So I'll answer that 2 ways. Our partner in New England is RAD Sports out of Rockland, Mass. They are arguably the most successful general contractor when it comes to turf fields in all of New England. Their installers are Shaw Sports Turf certified installers. but we also, I mean, they can't do all of our fields, right, in a given year. But any other installer besides RAD, they actually have to fly down to Georgia. There's 4 key installation techniques that we insist on, and they actually get a certificate. So there's probably 3 other installation companies besides RAD who install for us, but they're all Shaw Sports Turf certified. Oh, good. All right, here we go.
Joe, probably 15 minutes. We gotta wrap
All
up.
right. So here's the playability assessment tool. So the 7, as you can see, it's kind of blurry, but I'll try to go from clockwise. So Gmax at the very top is the measure of energy that the athlete absorbs when he or she hits the turf. Okay. Rotational traction or rotational resistance can be explained this way. When the athlete plants his or her foot and changes direction, that cleat has to release from the surface. If it gets stuck, we all know what happens to the knee and the ankle. So that's incredibly important. Shear vein it was all new to us. Okay, we said, Dr. Abdel, what is shear vein? None of us said, that's the stability of the field. Is it slippery? Like, is it too hard? Best example I can give you is when the Patriots played the Dolphins last year, second game of the year in Miami, one of the Patriots running backs planted his foot, changed direction, and a big clump of turf came up. Obviously, the shear vein for that field is very poor. They had to call timeout. Grounds crew guys came out from the sideline, put the clump back, and obviously, shear vein is very, very important. Energy rebound is ball bounce. Very, very critical for the games of baseball and softball. That's what went into B1K. Vertical deformation is the field too soft? Is there too much rubber in the infield? Because if it's too soft, I have to work all that much harder to go from here to here, and my quads and my hamstrings get exhausted, and I'm more susceptible to a lower leg injury the second half of practice or the second half of a game. Force reduction is just the opposite. Is there too much sand in the infield? Makes it too hard, so that the energy is being absorbed by the foot and the ankle. That's when you get your shin splints and your ankle problems. Okay, and so there's now, as you'll see in a minute. Okay, the closer to the center, I'm going to go to it right now. The poorer performing, or the poorer, this goes through, how we measure. Okay, so this slide shows our systems on our pad, a competitor's pad, and a competitor's pad. So the closer to the edge, the green, the higher performing or safer each of those 7 metrics are. The closer to the center, the poorer performing or less safe a system is. Again, system. So as you can see, on our pad, they're all the way out to the edge. You cannot do any better than that. Okay? And then I'm going to, while we're on that subject, I'm going to jump to, I think, a very key slide. So this talks about Legion, which we already have. Our Geofill is our organic infill. I left you a packet here. It's 90% coconut husk, 10% cork. There's over 500 Geofill fields in the world today. The closest, as I said, is, of course, Chintasqua. The biggest attribute of Geofill is the heat reduction. It holds 7 to 8 times its own weight in water, which during the summer, if you can get a 40-degree Fahrenheit reduction in surface temperature compared to chrome rubber, that is huge.
Joe, can you pass that around?
Yep, the Geofill?
Yeah, please.
Yep. I'm going to leave it, but, so this is obviously dry. It would be, hydrated. But the key thing I want to do, before I talk about our pad, this is not easy, okay. Okay, this is the slide I want to talk to you about, okay? What this shows is Legion NXT, which is our premier turf product, 2.0, the 2-inch pile height, over our pad. Legion NXT is 2.25, no pad. What we're trying to show you with this slide is if Sturbridge decides to go, whether or not you decide to go pad or no pad, we can give you a premier system. That would be all the way out to the edge. We would tell Joe, whether you went with chrome rubber sand or geofill sand, we would give Joe the exact amount of infill to the ounce to achieve those results. So that it would be literally out to the edge. So two out of the 7 have to do with traction. The HIC and the GMAX are safety, and then the force reduction, vertical deformation, and energy rebound are all athletic performance. So there's 3 categories.
Joe, what's the cost difference?
Yes, so, great question. So if you, typical 80,000 square foot field, if you went with, a pad, and, chrome rubber, the delta is about $30,000 compared to if you went 2.25, no pad. If you went geofill, which does require a pad, you cannot put geofill sand infill without a pad. The delta would go to $80,000, and that includes the pad. Now, a little bit about the pad before we conclude. So we're so excited about this. We just released this 2 weeks ago. One of the things that especially environmental groups will ask is, well, where do these turf fields go? 10 years from now when you pull it up and you have to replace, is it going to go in a landfill? Is it going to go in Farmer Jones, back 40 acres? Well, we have the answer to that. Shaw Sports Turf is a division of Shaw Industries, the giant carpeting company. They have recycled over 1 billion pounds of carpeting. So recycling carpet is not new to Shaw Industries. So this particular pad, the reason we're so excited about it is the fact that it's made 50% of this pad that you're looking at is a recycled turf field. 30% is recycled PET, most commonly the bubble wrap that you use in packaging, and the remaining 20% is a PET binder. So we can actually say to you folks, like if you go with Shaw 10 years from now, 11 years from now, you have to pull it up to replace it. Where is that field going to go? It's going to go into making another pad.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So my understanding is if the pad can go through 2 field cycles?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Actually 3, because a 25-year warranty. Now, most fields, so you get an 8-year warranty on the turf, but quite frankly, we're getting 12, 13 because
If they're maintained.
if they're maintained, that is correct. And our maintenance manual is on your flash drive as well as our maintenance video. So again, we're very, very excited. So I just want to emphasize that the results there are on our pad. Yes.
For the different sports lines, for the yard markers, for the
Hash marks.
Hash marks, are those sewn in or heat transferred?
Great question. So there's tufting and there's inlay. So sidelines, end lines, football yard lines, those are tufted at the factory for no extra charge. They will come already sewn in.
Okay.
Something like a goal circle or a football hash mark or a football yard line number, they are done in situ. Okay, we have templates, so we would cut out, the number 4 and glue in the white number 4.
How many sports have you done on a field?
Yep, that's another great question. So if you were to do the big five, you know, football, soccer, boys and girls lacrosse, and field hockey, it's our opinion that inlaying all five is too busy. So the rule of thumb is make 3 of the sports permanent, you know, tufted inlay. And the other 2 sports, you put down tick marks, which are 1-inch squares that you glue in, and they're markers for your painter. So when the painter comes, it's connect the dots. So the most common thing that we will see is football, soccer, permanent. One of the spring sports, either boys or girls lacrosse, permanent. Tick marks for field hockey in the fall, and the other lacrosse in the spring. That's the most common one that we see. Same thing if there was a logo. The logo, if you go with a logo, those are all, you know, pre-made. The center circle is a 30-foot radius, so you would get one big logo with a 30-foot radius that would be inlaid. So they're done at the factory, and then the whole thing is inlaid. But that's a great question. Maintenance, you know, greens groomer, again, it's all in the video. Every 80 to 100 hours of play, you want to groom your field to keep, and the grooming does 2 things. It keeps the fibers upright, and it keeps the distribution, the infill depth consistent, okay? The other machine that we most often see being purchased is what's called a litter cat. A litter cat is basically cleaner upper. So, you know, twigs, leaves, pieces of athletic tape, candy wrappers.
Sunflower seeds.
Sunflower seeds. There is no rule of thumb on that. You simply look at your field and you go, I gotta clean it. And you run your litter cat over that. There's also a toe magnet at the back. It's gonna pick up any ferrous material. Helmet snaps, jewelry is gonna be picked up by the toe magnet.
Joe, what are the antimicrobial properties of the different infills?
Yeah, well, first of all, we don't really think the antimicrobial is necessary at all because UV light, the fields are out in the open, and we feel that the UV light will kill anything on the field. So we don't recommend it's just an unnecessary added cost. So the final thing that I'd like to, in my couple minutes here, is to talk about the cooperative purchasing, which is becoming increasingly popular. It's very, very popular in Connecticut. It's becoming increasingly popular in Massachusetts. It gives the owner the ability to directly purchase the system that they want, you know, the materials from the, you know, there's a number of buy boards out there, but according to mass bid laws, you still have to bid out the site work and the installation of the turf. So again, going back to Tintasqua, that's exactly what they did. They went with the Legion on the pad, with the Geofill. You know, they still had to bid out the site work and the installation of the turf. So if you were to go with Shaw Sports Turf, we would provide Joe with the names and contact numbers for at least 3 Shaw Sports Turf certified installers, and they would have the bid doc sent to them. Most recent example is Pentucket Regional High School. They're building a brand new high school, and they went with the B1K product for their baseball field and Legion NXT for their multi-sport stadium field. Yeah. Like I said, Deb Boyd, I don't know if you know Deb, she's the assistant superintendent for business and finance. We got a glowing email from her about how they enjoyed the whole process, the product, you know, everything. So again, just to summarize, if I may, the 4 things I hope I covered adequately for you. The recommendation of the product would be our Legion family. That number 2 is that we look at things from a systemic standpoint. It's a system. It's not just the turf. It's not just the infill. They all work together to give you that, you know, that PAT, those high performing. We call it a radar, by the way. You know, pad versus no pad. And then finally, the cooperative purchasing process.
All right, thanks, Joe.
right,
Appreciate
thank
it. Can you leave a sample with us?
Yes.
All right, thank you.
So I was gonna leave the pad and the box sample. Okay, this is our premier product, the Legion NXT with the infill, okay?